And now, for this week's State of Trade in Star Citizen. The economy has been under strain since the beginning of 3.10. Testing has pointed towards the economy being shared across all regions this patch, instead of being region-locked like in previous patches. If this is the case, the change would explain the unprecedented stress that the economy has been under, as the prices and profits we are seeing currently have not been seen since the 3.82 release of the Carrack. The monthly report for August revealed work on new cargo types supposedly coming online in 3.11, including perishable and fragile cargo. With new types of commodities in the works, here's hoping that the profit and availability of goods is overhauled as well. And now, on to market data. The trade economy saw surprising traffic throughout last week. Projections of trade slowing down were completely inaccurate, and most outposts suffered from over-trafficking of most commodities. With signs pointing to the economy no longer being region-locked, this is expected to last until an economy overhaul is performed. In the metals market, Agresium repeats its trends from last week. Agresium has a rarely seen base price of 22.50 and sells for 27.50. In Microtech, McGrath on Clio saw Agresium reach 23.78. SMCA8 on Calliope surged to 24.25. Around ArcCorp, SAL2 on Lyria held to 23.78. In Crusader, ArcCorp 141 on Daymar reached a staggering 24.91. Kudra Ore on Daymar saw a slightly lower price of 24.37. Last week's advice repeats, as such a high price and low stock makes Agresium a terrible buy. Titanium continued its record highs at all locations. Titanium has a base price of 7.10 and a sell price of 8.90. Around Hurston, Titanium on Ariel soared to 7.65 ranges at Bezdek, with Lathan following close at 7.62. In the Microtech system, Clio's McGrath reached a staggering 7.90. Titanium deposits around ArcCorp's Lyria saw slightly less traffic, as SAL5 saw the low of the week at 7.54. SAL2 saw a high of 7.68, with Humboldt Mines spiking at 7.55, as more traders flocked to the location for what was once cheap titanium. In Crusader, Tram & Meyer sees a typical price of 7.96. Traders also would do well to avoid freighting titanium to Everest Harbor over Lorville, as the sell price plunged to a dismal 8.20 UEC. Gold saw an increase in traffic this week, with price increases affecting 3 systems. Gold has a base price of 5.41 and sells for 6.41. Around Crusader, deposits at Shubin SCD1 on Daymar rose to 5.86. Kudra Ore on Daymar reached 5.74, an unusually low high for the outpost. Around Microtech, SMO18 on the planet itself held to the base price of 5.41. Caltag Research on Calliope rose to 5.87. Around Hurston, Anderson on Aberdeen spiked to 5.58, with Norgard reaching 5.60. ArcCorp, Humboldt Mines on Lyria holds to a base of 5.41. Due to thin atmosphere, Humboldt continues to be one of the better sources of base price gold. Tungsten sees a slight increase in movement as well. Tungsten has a base price of 3.55 and sells for 4.06. The Microtech system sees Caltag Research on Calliope reach 3.67, with SMCA8 reaching 3.62. In Crusader, ArcCorp 141 on Daymar sees a spike of 3.67. Kudra Ore sees 3.57, with Shubin SCD1 seeing a repeated high of 3.80. All Daymar locations experienced regular shortages of the commodity. Around ArcCorp, 056 on Walla had a price increase of 3.62, with 045 seeing a minor increase to 3.56. Hurston is the only system to not see a price increase on any deposit of tungsten. Aluminum sees no changes throughout last week. Aluminum has a base price of 1.11 and sells for 1.33 UEC. With no changes to aluminum and minimal profit, it's still an unattractive commodity for trading. Legal Vice sees distilled spirits surging once again. Distilled spirits has a base price of 4.06, with a sell price of 5.56 at major ports. Around Microtech, Bud's Growery on Euterpe was the lowest public option at 4.30. Crusader's prices were staggeringly high, with Bountiful Harvest on Daymar surging to 4.60 once again. On Cellin, Gillette Family Farms rose to 4.53, slightly down from last week, and Terra Mills reached 4.57. Around ArcCorp, Shady Glen Farms on Walla held mostly to the base price of 4.06, with minor surges in the 4.20 range throughout the week. Stems saw slightly more movement last week. Stems has a base price of 2.80 and sells for 3.86 at major ports. In Crusader, Deacons on Yela rose to a price of 2.90. However, Hicks on Cellin kept to its base price of 2.80. Around Microtech, Cantwell on Clio repeated last week's price of 2.84. Medium-sized haulers on a budget may do well hauling stems to planetary ports and visiting Hicks for base price stems. Gases see a repeat surge on the high end. Astatine continues to see increased movement at all outposts. Astatine has a base price of 7 and a sell price of 9 at major ports. However, that base price was rarely seen throughout the week. On Microtech, SMO22 spiked to 7.79. SMO10 rose even higher to 7.93. On Calliope, SMCA6 reached 7.85. In Crusader, Benson Mining on Yela surged to 7.91. ArcCorp 157 on Yela kept to a usual 7.96. The most surprising surge was on Ida, where Woodruff rose to a rarely seen 7.81. Ryder on Ida rose to 7.82. Around ArcCorp, Loveridge on Lyria surged to 7.91. ArcCorp 056 on Walla saw a relative low of 7.37. ArcCorp 061 once again kept near 7.06 due to disinterest from bulk traders. Medium traders are reminded to visit this location for the best price on astatine, but stay wary of its maximum supply of 300 SCU. Chlorine saw repeated movement from last week. Chlorine has a base price of 2.35 and a sell price of 2.95. While the buy price stayed low at all outposts, the sell price once again dipped throughout the week. Deacon's research on Yela was the worst offender, ranging in the low 2.80 area. Grimhex saw minor dips to 2.90. Bulk traders are still encouraged to try the route for quick turnaround and minimal investment risk. Chlorine saw only minor movement last week. Chlorine has a base price of 1.3 and a sell price of 1.71. There were no notable changes to chlorine last week. Hydrogen saw little notable movement last week. Hydrogen has a base price of 0.90 and a sell price of 1.12. ArcCorp 157 on Yela saw minor spikes before returning to its base pricing. Iodine sees no notable movement. Iodine has a base price of 0.35 and a sell price of 0.45. The mineral market continues to dominate high-end trading. Laranite repeats typical shortages and price spikes. Laranite has a rarely seen price of 24.10 and a sell price of 31.01. Around ArcCorp, ArcCorp 045 on Walla reached 27.77, with ArcCorp 056 on Walla seeing 27.41. Around Hurston, Bezdek on Ariel rose to 27.78. Its sister location, Lathan, reached a similar 27.73. Tram & Myers spiked at a typical 27.81. It is still recommended to skip on Laranite due to its astronomical pricing, as the risk is simply not worth the mediocre reward. Diamond sees a slight change-up in its patterns. Diamond has a base price of 5.85 and a sell price of 7.35. Around Microtech, SMO13 dropped in price to 5.85. Deltana Research on Microtech repeated a previous price of 6.02. Hurston Outpost once again shifted between base pricing and minor spikes to 6.12. On Magda, Han rose sharply to 6.23, with Perlman surpassing at 6.30. Around ArcCorp, Shuban SAL2 on Lyria dropped slightly to 6.17, down from last week's. ArcCorp 056 on Walla dropped slightly to 6.15. ArcCorp 048 rose slightly to 5.88. In Crusader, Tram & Myers on Cellin held firm to a base price of 5.85. However, the sell price of Port Olisar and Grim Hex saw regular drops from traders freighting the short-range route. Corundum saw no notable movement this week. Corundum has a base price of 2.30 and a sell price of 2.71. Beryl continues to experience more movement in Crusader than it really should. Beryl has a base price of 4.06 and a sell price of 4.35. In Crusader, deposits at ArcCorp 141 on Daymar reached an astounding 4.16. Deposits at Kudra Ore experienced a slight increase to 4.07, with Shuban SCD1 surging to 4.09. Caltag on Calliope saw a minor bump to 4.07. Quartz sees no notable movement this week. Quartz has a base price of 1.25 and a sell price of 1.55. Scrap sees a repeat of last week. Scrap has a base price of 1.35 and a sell price of 1.86. In Crusader, Grim Hex over Yayla averaged 1.53. However, Crew L1, the next closest source of scrap, kept near base pricing for most of the week. Medical supplies sees a repeat surge at all locations. Medical supplies have a rarely seen base price of 15.75 and a sell price of 19.25 at major ports. Around Microtech, Cantwell Research on Clio rose to 17.29. Anvik Research on Calliope saw the same pricing, at 17.29. In Crusader, Deacon's Research on Yayla rose to 17.11, while Hicks Research on Cellin experienced a repeat low of 16.81. With medical supplies seeing high prices and supply shortages, traders are cautioned against freighting the commodity. Processed food sees no notable movement. Processed food has a base price of 1.21 and a sell price of 1.56. Agricultural supplies also see little movement and has a base price of 1, with a sell price of 1.20. And now for next week's forecast. With the economy experiencing unprecedented stress, expect most commodities to suffer in pricing. Astatine will continue to experience abnormal highs at all outposts except for ArcCorp 061. Titanium will see heavy traffic as well. Traders looking for cheap diamond around Hurston would do well to visit outposts on the planet itself, if they can tolerate the atmosphere. And now, for this week's trading tip. Maybe don't trade this week. If you own a mining vehicle, consider using that for the time being. With lower than usual margins and a slew of server crashes and bugs affecting trading, the gameplay loop is simply not worth it for all but the most die-hard traders, and gambling is rarely profitable. Perhaps 3.11 will see an increase in available commodities and better profits for such a risky venture. That's it for this week's State of Trade. Until next time, keep on trucking.